Thank you for tuning in. We're going to talk about Ashley tonight and how to channel some of her energy here tonight. Yeah, so thank you for tuning in. Everything is illogical for entertainment and educational purposes. Everything is illogical. Um, and I might be a little bit loud, or I'm not for sure, but I'm getting as I try to get started on how I want to go about um, everything because, as you know, everything's logical because I personally was not there. Just kind of channel some of the energy because, I don't know anything about this case. However, I did try to, get myself caught up as to, obviously speaking what the topic, what actually, what her and her, I think it was, his name is Joe McKean or something of that nature. But I just studied to get a clue as to what's going on. But I'm not going to hold on now because it only confused me. So I am going to, because I'm like, late coming in on the topic of it. I saw it, and it really, you know, didn't have any intentions on it. But after there's that is one thing. She's a royal princess, this divine. Okay, so what I've gathered from her when I take it because I've actually been going to be her spokesman at this moment. Okay, and I'm just gonna give you what I'm channeling from her energy, her spirit at the moment. She said that everything's alleged, and my condolences to her parents, her family, all the people that love her and support her. I understood that she's a YouTuber, influencer, as well as she did other things like, dancing, entertainment. I don't know if it's like our energy yet, but, dancing, and the mind, stuff of that nature. And, actually looking for something, and so yeah, hmm. So what she told me thus far, the spirit, that I alleged to be her, was that, which I can verify, some of this stuff is actually true. Um, she said that she went to this country to, for an engagement to be proposed to. She was in the know of this. She said that it was a very exciting time in her life. It was, young lady, young somebody getting married, and she wanted to be by the water. She said something about mountains and stuff of that nature, so she wanted to celebrate that, where the world can actually embrace her new beginning. She was looking very forward. She was new life that she was able to embark on with her fiance, because they are technically engaged. Okay, from what she's saying, and some things actually, you know, um, due to the situation surrounding the resort, the villa that they were in, she spoke about, I don't know, the stairs house that she went there to rest, right? And she talked about a mirror with boxes, and she talked about wealth and all that stuff. I don't know what any of this stuff means because I personally don't know her, but she spoke on that. And she also talked about things in telling with the casino, and I don't know if that's where he was going, but she went to rest. I'm assuming at that point. But they also had some disagreements that, arguments and stuff of that nature too. Very, very, like almost like a riot type encounter, clash of personalities. That's what she also said. And she was going over that the aggression was very intense, what she had experienced from them. And as you know, speak fast forward that they separated them because the aggression was over a period of time, right? So they just separated the two so that it calmed down, which is expected and understood. But there were some things that she also had explained to me was that, I just want to get to the chase. I'm not going to go yet. So, okay, I asked her what had happened to her, and she was very much in love with this gentleman that she was engaged to, very much so. But there was something that happened down at home, and I'm going to get into that. And we're going to talk topics about. We already covered what they said took place at the villa, the hospital, and then the amount of time that it took him to respond to the parents or to even inform them after notifying them, but not informing them in detail as to what happened to her prior to the arrest, right? So that's where we are right now. So, she talked about addictions and stuff, and but she's saying something about her torso expand, and the fleet of that. I don't know, something about, I don't know where this, you know, the captain of something. I'm not for sure what all this stuff actually means, but this is what she's telling me, her situation. And she went on to say her torso is wet, and the administrator, I guess, did minimal. And she talked about these minerals demonstrated, and she's talking about the funeral and snow, and sometimes when they're transitioning, they kind of like introduce you to their whole life in segments. and as they paint the picture of what they're wanting us to know. But she was also saying the kind of relationship that they had, and I guess that ties in with the dancing and all of that kind of stuff that he allowed her to venture off. She did things. She says some people would label her as being a SLUT. However, this is something that they, had an understanding of how their relationship, the components of their relationship. But overall, she said the reason why she was with him because of, the same segment of or whatever of intimacy. It was like spectacular to her, and that's what she loved the most about him, the way he left her feeling as his lady. That was the element of why she loved him so much. And she also talked about these are just basically, expressions of just channeling. It necessarily don't mean that these are factual, but, just channeling information. And this is where we are. And, this is all allegedly, some of the things that she spoke on, it was very cringe. She talked about a lure fisherman, elderly guy. I don't know if these are some of the witnesses that, or even just people that she saw along the way that just cringed to her. Um, but, the mind boggling thing was the individual that she showed, like pushing something down the hallway. And she said, he did it. He did it. And that was her thing. She called him the searcher. And, just basically the overall planner of all of it. The trafficking of organs and, stuff of that. I guess the elderly guy was the planner or something of that nature. She talked about there's other people like, the wives and the son wife entering into the hospital because, they did carry her off to the hospital. And she said that the son, some son or another, came in there, you know, like in a nursery setting type thing, and with a balloon. And in that balloon, it had gases in it. So I'm assuming it caused like suffocation, the restriction of life. And this is what she's telling me, spiritually. Like I said, this is just an information that is being channeled, aiming at the account as to how she, how the spirit is the recollection. She's talking about hours, just hours and stuff of that nature. And it was horrific, her injuries that she sustained. And she spoke on how BLOODY it was. Um, so overall, this is a very sensitive situation and need to be dealt with consideration and respect for everyone's that are involved. It's very ugly, and just that overall, she never said anything about her fiance injuring her. She named, people like homeless people, and, that she looked to be very sickly. and situations of that nature, the violation, of her and the things that she had encountered. It's just all too often that people do leave out for vacations and, just trying to, I don't know, escape just to, for relaxation and encounter situations like this. And it's just an awful time because as a nation, we invite so many people into America and we welcome them. But when Americans go abroad, they encounter all of these type of disappointments where they don't even come back in most cases or their property taken. They just don't give us the same consideration as we give them. And I think overall the law enforcement needs to handle this with sensitivity and respect regards to the family. In fact, I think they should personally um, fly the parents in to, accommodate them in getting their daughter back. It was a remarkable thing what the entertainer Carly B had offered to the family. And this is what made me look at the situation because she is just an overall gentle, kind spirited young lady. And, despite all of her situations, she still had the heart of an angel to come in and just assist those families in this situation here. Um, and as a part of the nation, the community of our race, we have to admit that we're very proud of her gentle spirit, towards this matter. Sometimes, people get into these situations where they have a dispute, disagreements, for whatever reason, and just this spirited feeling that left within cause a person to wonder, maybe venture off for just that quiet place in their mind, just to observe scenery, and then they run into these crippling situations that can be very dangerous. And this is what we're seeing here at this very moment in her Ashley's case here. It's just it's just overall unfortunate, situation here. And so just it just suggests this content, it's just beneficial because in her situation is and like, I'm gonna summon it up, this summary, like these wives and stuff running these digital plans and all this digital trafficking, all of the stuff that's been going on for decades with the uncle and all of these things are just a part of targeting individuals. Well, this has been the information that I, excuse me, gathered. And I'm gonna really close out this reading here. And if she come forward again, I probably let you guys know. And I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. And just prayers go to her family and everyone that loves her. She was a very popular influencer here on, and just overall in all our activities and stuff. And yeah, that's where we are with this. And I just want to close out furthermore with what's going on in our nation. We have a situation going on in the Middle East as well. And that is a lot of criminal cruelty that is going on with, how they are playing their situation. Technology is just is it's so advanced, I just wanted to add this in addition, yeah, you know, the what you would call the satellites that are invisible, and they're moving and opening up other roads, whereas we're looking at this port and then another road is over there being open and business as usual. And everybody, all allies are, you know, conjoined together in this mission, but yet feeding us, you know, false information as to, you know, what they have promised. It's just, you know, a lot of tricks are being played. And yeah, people just have to be mindful of what is going on and always, you know, seek the truth in everything that is being said to you. And people with their right hand helping what their left hand is mischief, you know? Yep. So this has been my take on this. God bless everyone. Thank you for tuning in.